I waited patiently for the Lord. At my testimony, I remember saying in brackets 66 years, close brackets. He turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and the mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear and put their trust in the Lord. Blessed is the man who makes the Lord his trust, who does not look to the proud, to those who turn aside to false gods. Many, O Lord, my God, are the wonders you have done. The things you planned for us, no one can recount to you. Were I to speak and tell of them, they would be too many to declare. Sacrifice and offering you did not desire, but my ears you have pierced. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you did not require. Then I said, here I am, I have come. It is written about me in the scroll. I desire to do your will, O my God. Your law is within my heart. I proclaim righteousness in the great assembly. I do not seal my lips, as you know, O Lord. I do not hide your righteousness in my heart. I speak of your faithfulness and salvation. I do not conceal your love and your truth from the great assembly. Well, I know a lot of you will already know what I'm going to say, basically, in my testimony, but I make no apology for repeating it, because I believe that within this psalm and all that it means to me, that is what I'm meant to be doing. So I'll just recap of why it's so important to me and how the Lord rescued me through Psalm 40, because when I read that song, it spoke to me of the crippling depression that I'd suffered from for most of my adult life. It was a time of feeling absolutely desolate, worthless, hopeless, a waste of space, all these words that I called myself. And it was very much hidden from others, especially those at work, where I was the jokey, happy, jovial soul. But at home, I was a very different person and very difficult to live with, which was a huge burden, as it were, to Nick and my mum. When I read this psalm, which is, as I say, just before I was baptised, after the Lord really spoke to me at BCC during the service one morning, on my second visit, after declaring that I wouldn't go because they were joining the nutters, it described so clearly to me, verse 2, he lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and the mire, because that to me spoke of that pit. For me was depression, that slimy pit, and I knew so well the bottom of that pit, the mud and the mire, and I waded around in that for years. And in between episodes, which it wasn't a constant thing, because I'd have periods of when I would creep to the top and tell myself I wouldn't let myself let myself get like that again. That so spoke to me, the slimy pit, because the walls are slimy, and every time I climbed out of that pit and just got my fingers, my nails just over the rim of that pit, then the enemy would stamp on them and I'd slip back down. And that was, well, it's got to be 35 years. But reading this psalm, the Lord spoke to me so clearly that he rescued me, and he put my feet on that rock which cannot move, and gave me a firm place to stand. And I knew he wouldn't let me go down to that bottom of that pit ever again. And that's not to say that I'm not challenged by, well, the enemy, to put it in a few words. The enemy comes against me, and particularly during this COVID time from March onwards, when I have looked into that pit and teetered on the edge, I have to be perfectly truthful. And I've known quite dark and desolate times during this lockdown, which I didn't think I would at the beginning. Part of that due to being on my own and missing Nick very much, and not being able to able to speak about it. But this song, in the dead of night when I wake up with a panic, or in the morning when I wake up with that tremble, I would say, then I recite the words of this song, these verses that I've just read to you. I recite those words because there's no stronger sword than the word when it comes to the enemy, as we all know. And so I've made it my own, this song, and I couldn't speak about songs without saying about this Song 40. And in verse 7 it says, "Here I am, I have come. It is written about me in the scroll." And I believe I've taken that on as it's written about me. It's written about me in the scroll because I desire to do the will of God. His law is written within my heart. I proclaim righteousness in the great assembly, and I do not seal my lips, as you know. I do not hide your righteousness in my heart. I speak of your faithfulness and salvation, and that is exactly what I am doing at this moment. When I spoke about it at my baptism, 3 people came up to me afterwards and said, "Thank you for what you've said," because that's exactly described how I feel. So that's given me encouragement from that time onwards to speak about it openly, which I would never have dreamt of doing prior to reading this song. And it's enabled me to speak openly about my testimony and about how the Lord rescued me with other people suffering from depression in particular. And so this was my go-to psalm, as it were, closely followed by 91, where that reminds me of God's faithfulness in every way, and reminds me that his promises are true. He won't forsake me no matter what I'm going through. He won't let me go into that place that dark place that I was in before. As it says I think it's the very end of Matthew 28, "I am with you always, even to the end of the age." I know that's true. I know that I'm still challenged, but I also know that I am super glued to that rock. I will not be shaken from that rock. And as long as I'm anchored to that rock, I will deal with it. I will come against the enemy as he comes against me. And I praise the Lord for that amazing grace when he spoke to me through that song. Thank you.